إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد. Brothers and sisters, I'd like to begin by congratulating everyone on the beautiful occasion of Eid Al Adha of 2024. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of your sacrifices. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of your fasting. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all the good deeds that you've been doing leading up to this day. And may Allah give us the tawfiq to continue in doing such khair. Furthermore, brothers and sisters, I'd like to remind you of your Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who created us and to whom we are going to return. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. That those intelligent believers, when they look to the left, when they look to the right, when they see the signs around them, they are reminded of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah He says, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. The believer is the one that when they're sitting, they remember Allah. When he's walking, they remember Allah. When they're lying on their back, they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because it is Him to whom we are going to return. Brothers and sisters, yesterday we saw some of the most beautiful scenes of seeing the millions of people doing a Hajj and seeing people gathered there on the flanks of Arafah. There are so much that we could talk about, but two very quick lessons. Number one, when we see people dressed up in two garments, one garment covering the top and one garment covering the bottom. This is a replica or a reminder that that is how you are going to be buried inside of your graves. It's a reminder that that is your coffin, that sooner or later you're going to be dressed like that, but you're going to be under the ground. So start preparing for it now. The other great lesson that we can take out is the same way in which everybody is gathered together in this one area, is the same way in which Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to gather us in one area and we're going to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our lives. These are some of the basic things that we can take out. Furthermore, brothers, I remind you to fear Allah. Ya ayyuhan nasu ttaqu rabbakum. O people, fear your Lord, the one whom you will return to. Further to that, brothers and sisters, part and parcel of our faith is the love of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who taught us and explained to us our beautiful deen. And part and parcel of the love of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that those who love the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they love him and they are merciful towards one another and they are staunch and they are strong against opposition to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What does Allah say? Muhammad Rasulullah وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ شِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ الرُّحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُم. Those who, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the Prophet of God, and those who love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they are merciful amongst themselves, yet they are stern and strong when it comes to those who want to cause harm to this beautiful deen. Brothers and sisters, on the day of Arafah, the Prophet ﷺ, he gave a very powerful speech. We don't have time to go through the whole speech, so I'm just going to give you a few snippets. From, as we mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ, he reminded people of Allah, reminded people that they're going to go and answer on the Day of Judgment to their actions. The Prophet ﷺ then moved on to the very next important topic, in which he said, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna dima'akum wa amwalakum haramun alaykum. The next thing that the Prophet immediately spoke about after reminding people of Allah is that, oh believers, your blood and your wealth is sacred. That human life is sacred. Human life is precious to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One life is sacred in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is unfortunate that in the khutbahs, and we have to talk about the events, that the bloodshed and the killing of Muslim lives has become something easy. Something which we see on our phones every day. If we don't see death and bloodshed on our phones, we think, what's happened? Something strange. Maybe my WhatsApp is not working today. Something is wrong. Because you didn't get the message that 50 people died here or 40 people died here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the most precious thing to Allah is human life. And these reminders, this khutbah that the Prophet ﷺ gave, these ayat of the Quran that we recite, they are not to be just put up on the wall or to be said in a khutbah, but they're to be implemented in real life. When the Prophet ﷺ said that the most precious thing to Allah is human life, we have to implement that. And we have to make sure it is implemented if it is not being implemented. It's our duty to make sure that these things happen. Brothers and sisters, I stand here and it is sad, but I have to remind ourselves that the genocide taking place in Gaza is still ongoing. 40,000 people nearly are dead. 15,000 of those are children. 10,000 plus of those are women. When is it going to stop? 9 months of non-stop pain and agony. 9 months, my dear brothers and sisters, of children and women being killed. 9 months of bombs that weigh up to 200 pounds dropping on civilian areas. 9 months. 9 months of where children's faces have been burning because of the use of white phosphorus. And that's not just in Gaza, but also in Syria and in other places. When is it going to stop? When are we going to speak? 9 months, brothers and sisters, where schools have been bombed, over 320 schools completely destroyed. 9 months where the healthcare system has completely been abolished, where they have not just bombed houses, but they've bombed hospitals with patients inside. And we found the remains when they uncovered the Shifa hospital. People were come out, patients who had medical suits, people were chained up, there was torture that was seen in the bodies that was found. Brothers, 9 months in which bakeries have been bombed. 2.5 million people are starving. 9 months, brothers and sisters, where over 100 journalists have been killed. 9 months where over 169 press officers have been completely destroyed. So real news cannot come out of that area. Brothers and sisters, 9 months where telecommunications have been cut off. There are only a handful of ambulances left, and mashallah, this masjid provided some of the ambulances that are there inside of Gaza. The ambulances have even been targeted. Brothers and sisters, 9 months of complete destruction even of the masajid. 9 months of destruction of all the universities then. My own university, Al Azhar, which has a branch in Gaza, was one of the first to be destroyed. What is the reason for destroying these places except for the hatred for Allah and His deen? 9 months, brothers and sisters, where women are giving birth without any anesthetics or any kind of medication. 9 months, brothers and sisters, where we are seeing now the death, the numbers state that over 30,000 children have lost limbs. That's 30,000 people whose lives have been destroyed. No legs, no arms, no eyes, no this and no that. 9 months ongoing, and we do not see any end. We have to say enough is enough. And we have to recognize that this is a genocide. And we have to stand up because we have voices. We have rights, and we must speak, and we must do that which Allah has told us. And if we stand up and we speak, and we exercise the authority and the power that we have within our own capacity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He promises that we will change. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu in tansurullah yansurkum wa yuthabbit aqdamakum. O you who believe, if you make Allah's deen victorious, Allah will give you victory, and He will make you a superpower, He will make you strong. But you have to do the effort, you have to make that work. Likewise, Allah, He says, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah, He told the Prophet ﷺ after the battle of Uhud, where he lost many of his close companions, He said to the Prophet ﷺ, لَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. Don't despair, don't give up, be hopeful. وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ, because you are superior to them. You are superior to them in your ethics, in your morals, in your spirituality, in everything. You are a better nation. And then Allah says, in kuntum mu'mineen, if you truly believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, Allah says, وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَيَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, O you who believe and do righteous actions. It's not enough just to believe. Allah says, and righteous actions, you have to be a community that is doing action. When you're a people that do action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, لَيَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ. Allah will give you the khilafah. Allah will give you power. Allah will give you strength as He gave to the nations before. But this is the promise of Allah if you believe and you come into action. Brothers and sisters, after this point, the Prophet ﷺ in his khutbah, he moved over to another point. And in that he talked about amanat, your trusts. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ عِنْدَهُ أَمَانَةٌ فَلْيُؤَدِّيهَا إِلَى مَنْ اؤْتُمِنَ عَلَيْهَا. The one whoever has a trust, they should fulfill their trusts. So trust, if you've given somebody a word, you must fulfill your word. If you've borrowed money, you must pay it back. If you have contracts, you must fulfill your contracts. And that is your amana with Allah in ibadat, your amana in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in speech and action. And further, the most important part of amana, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِذَا ضُيَّتْ الْأَمَانَةِ فَانْتَظِرُوا السَّاعَةِ. If the amana is lost, then just wait for the day of judgment. Then the companion said, Ya Rasulullah, كَيْفَ إِضَاءَتُهَا? How will the amana be lost? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِذَا أُسْنِدَ الْأَمْرُ إِلَى غَيْرِ أَهْلِهَا فَانْتَظِرُوا السَّاعَةِ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, if an amr, meaning if positions of power and authority, leadership, is given to people that are not qualified, they're not able to look after your interests, and you do nothing about it, you just sit back and just look and just watch. فَانْتَظِرُوا السَّاعَةِ. Then wait for the day of judgment, meaning your destruction is coming close. The Prophet ﷺ is saying when it comes to positions of authority and power and leadership, it is for those who fear Allah. It is for those who have your interests, not for those who have no interest and they are full of corruption and fasad. You must stand up and you must exercise your voice. And we can see that in all parts of the Muslim world. Furthermore, the Prophet ﷺ then in his khutbah, he went on to talk about unity. Ya ayyuhan nas, innamal mu'minuna ikhwa. That indeed, O people, you are all brothers in faith. The Prophet ﷺ went further to say, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna rabbakum wahid. O people, your Lord is one. Wa inna abakum wahid, and your father is one. Kullukum li Adam, all of you are from Adam. Wa Adamu min turab, and Adam is from turab. وَأَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. And the best of you in front of Allah is not the black or the white or the tall or the short, is the one with the most amount of taqwa. The Prophet ﷺ went further on to say, لَيْسَ لِعَرَبٍ فَضْلٌ لَأَعْجَمِ إِلَّا بِالتَّقْوَى. There is no preference given to the Arab over the non-Arab, the black over the white. There is no difference in the eyes of Allah. All of us are the same. The Prophet ﷺ said the difference is إِلَّا بِالتَّقْوَى, the one who has got consciousness, who is aware of their Lord. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا بسنة سيد المرسلين. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر المسلمين الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Brothers and sisters, if you spare me 5 more minutes inshallah, and then we will conclude. Brothers and sisters, as mentioned, the elections are on the 4th of July, which is 2.5 weeks away. It is very, very important that every one of us, that we engage and exercise our rights. Whatever little bit of power that we have, we must use that. And when we do cast our vote, we must be conscious and aware of who we are casting our vote for. I think it's fairly obvious. Those who have supported the Gazan war and the genocide, we must not give them any of our support. And those who have spoken freely and spoken in support of Gaza and Palestine, we must give them our full support. We must, number one, must register to vote, and we must make our voices known. Furthermore, brothers and sisters, we have unfortunately seen over the last few weeks, for those of you aware of what is taking place in and around the UK and in London, there was a march that took place in central London with over 20,000 people from the far right that came and they walked the streets of London. And you can watch this on your TikToks when you go after the khutbah. 20,000 right-wingers, they were marching on the streets of London. And what did they say in this march? And it's embarrassing for me to say this here on the minbar, but I have to say, otherwise you will not understand. In the march, these right-wingers, what were they saying? They were using the F word, they were saying F Allah. Inside of the march, they were mocking and they were insulting the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were walking with banners that said, this is London, not Londonistan, go back to your countries. I'm not making this up, you can check it. And I have no fun in saying this to you either. But I'm saying this to you because this is happening under your noses. This is happening in the streets of London. These 20,000 people didn't come from far away. They're from around you. Meaning that the rise of the right is right there in front of you. The danger of the racists and the fascists is right there in front of you. We have to exercise our rights. We have to exercise our votes. We have to become people that are engaged in what is taking. We have to be people that stand on our 2 feet and take control of our future. Brothers and sisters, we cannot remain silent. Remaining silent, it is criminal. We must, number one, continue on with our ibadat, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two, we must continue in being unified ummah. Put our differences aside and remain united, remain strong. Number three, we must continue with our da'wah, inviting people to al-Islam. And we must also engage in all aspects, be that politically, be that in the media, be that economically, be that in education. We must be a people that are active. So the last day to register to vote is the 18th of June, and you must exercise your vote and look for those candidates that are very clearly pro-Gaza, supporting the Palestinians and supporting that cause, and I'm sure they are very visible to you as well. Brothers and sisters, I conclude and I wrap up, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us aid and to support us in these very difficult times. We have many challenges as ummah. We have many challenges as ummah, not just in Palestine but in Syria. That's long going. We have many challenges that are taking place in Burma. We have many challenges that are taking place, the horrific war or civil war that's taking place in Sudan. The challenges and the problems that are taking place in Pakistan, where the injustice and the tyranny is just so widespread. How can a man be put into prison who's cleared of all charges, yet he's going to lie in prison and rot there for 10, 15 years? What kind of an Islamic republic is that? What a shame and what an embarrassment it is to the world. When are we as youngsters going to stand up for our rights, stand up for our future, and take control of our ummah? It is time now to make those changes. It is now time to support those who are willing to make those changes. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا كربا إلا نفسته ولا ميتا إلا رحمته ولا مريدا إلا شفيته ولا دينا إلا قضيته ولا غائبا إلا حفظته ولا مجاهدا في سبيل إلا نصرته. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم أذل الشرك والمشركين ودمر أعداءك أعداء الدين. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في دين في سائر الأوطان. اللهم انصر المسلمين في فلسطين وفي شام وفي بورما وفي باكستان وفي كل مكان. اللهم اجعل آخر كلامنا من الدنيا لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. Eid Mubarak Sa'id. Eid is the day of akl wa shurb wa dhikrullah. Enjoy the day, eat, the Prophet ﷺ said, drink, the Prophet ﷺ said, and smile and enjoy it. Eid Mubarak Sa'id everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.